Alright, it's finally time to plant the tomatoes for the season in my Dutch bucket hydroponic system. And this year we're doing it a little bit earlier, because I have a secret weapon that I'm going to use. So in this video I'm going to plant them in the buckets and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna heat the greenhouse to keep them warm. So that hopefully I will get better harvests and try to extend the season for longer. So let's get into it. Alright, so here we have the clay pebbles from last year. Well, this is not all of it. But what I really like about clay pebbles or leca is that you can just use it over and over again. That's why I chose it. Now you can still see some root leftovers from the cucumbers and stuff like that, but I hope that it won't create any problems for us this year. But what I forgot to do last season was to wash the clay pebbles. That's something you should do when buying them, because they always are pretty dusty. That's what I noticed. Last year there was a lot of dust in the reservoir, so keep that in mind. But also to fill the pots up a bit more, or the buckets, I've bought some more leca, because this is not enough to fill it up completely. But now I will start washing out the buckets, putting some leca in, and then planting the tomatoes finally. Alright, so here we have a tomato, and just look at this tiny pot and this huge plant. So I think that it's absolutely pretty smart to just plant this pretty deep, because you know, these leaves, they're gonna die anyway. They are super small. And you know, this is not a lot of root mass for this size of a plant. But you know, when you think about it, when they are planted in the system, they will have even bigger mass compared to the root mass. So maybe this is actually normal. But you know, I do have to use hydroponic fertilizer when growing it like this. You know, when I have them in these pots, because this doesn't have nearly enough nutrients for all of this plant. But yeah, so now we're basically going to take the plant and just plop it into the balls, into the leca. This is a German variety, it's called the Zuckertraube. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. But now I will just plop this in, just like that, and then boom. Okay, I should probably go even deeper, maybe. But I don't want the roots to be standing in water, right? Because you know, the water level will always be around here. So if I have the plant too deep in the pot in the beginning, then the roots will always be standing in water. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing, because then if the power goes out, then it will still have access to water for some time. But it can rot, so I will try to plant it above that level. So I will go ahead and just remove these lower leaves. Now you don't have to be afraid to remove these small leaves, they just won't do a lot anyway. So just like so. And now I will fill this up. That will take a lot of time. Do we have anything better? I'll just use this pot. But it has holes in it. Bro, why didn't I think of that? Okay, what can we do? Okay, I found this old shovel and I think it's the perfect size. So as you can tell, this is just like planting a normal tomato. Well, at least if you can put the tomato in and then fill it up. Because if you want to plant this deep, you really have to just remove all the leca, because otherwise it will just be very hard to dig a trench. But that's one plant done. Let's go. The Zuckertraube. And it's supposed to be a good producer, so we're gonna see if that is what's going to happen. It's not an F1 hybrid, so we're gonna see how it compares to the F1 hybrid that I have. I will place this in the system now. Alright, it feels so good to plant this now. I'm really looking forward to this season. But as you can tell, I have some string here. But if you remember from another video, that was the video where I prepared the system for the winter. But in that video I said that I'm going to keep these strings, because I just think that it looks quite nice, honestly. But what I will do is I'm going to install a better system for this, so I can, when the plants reach the ceiling, just move them further that way. And maybe the plants on this side can go that way too. Because what happens then is that it can grow for longer. That's exactly like my neighbor does it. I haven't talked about this greenhouse a lot, but you're gonna see, it's amazing. But yeah, for now, before I put that wire system in, I'll just put the stake back, just to have something, you know. Alright, so I've washed all the buckets now, so I can just continue to plant. Next up is the sun gold. Of course I have to try it, you know, I've heard good things about it. Hopefully they're true, because I really want that sweet orange tomato. Here we have a super sweet 100 F1 hybrid. I have never used this before, but I just looked up, you know, the best producing variety in a system like this. And this was one of the best contenders. So I hope for, you know, a lot of cherry tomatoes, because that's really what you use the most. So it's always good to have a tomato like this, in my opinion. Okay, I think that you understand how this works now, so I will just continue on and put the plants in all the buckets. Well, we're going to leave 2 buckets for the cucumbers. I'm probably gonna plant them in a little bit later, because they want a little higher temperature. But it will probably be fine, because with this heating system that I have, I'm going to talk about it more later, it's probably gonna make it so that I can plant these much more early, and it will heat up, you know, the whole plant is the plan. I hope so, at least. We're gonna see how that works out in practice. Alright, this is the last tomato for the 8 buckets in my hydroponic system. And the remaining 2 are gonna be for the cucumbers. Let's go! Okay. Nice. Check this out, look. They are so big already. This is gonna be a good year for the tomatoes, I can tell. I will just add this back to the buckets now. And then the cucumbers, as I said, I'm going to do them later. But these tomatoes, I have some left. I don't know what I'm gonna do with. I'm probably just gonna plant them in a normal pot. Sometimes I wish I just had a bigger system, but you know, the greenhouse is this big. And I could, you know, make an elbow here and then build it towards that side. But then I wouldn't have any place for, you know, my peach tree or my nectarine tree, for example. And my other things that I have in the greenhouse. And now let me show you what I'm doing to heat this up. Because the temperatures right now, they are still going to hit below 10 degrees. And below 10 degrees, you really don't want to have your tomatoes. But I just checked the weather and it looks like it's gonna be pretty hot this whole time. So it's actually going to probably make pretty easy to make them survive. But let me show you what I'm going to do to make them survive even more. Inside of the reservoir, I have an aquarium heater, a submersible heater basically. Now what this little heater is going to do for the tomatoes, I don't really know, honestly. But I really do think that it's gonna make me be able to plant them out much earlier and then keep them for even longer in the season. Now I will keep this at 20 degrees Celsius because that is basically the optimal temperature. So we don't get any root rot, but we still keep them warm. So there's a built-in thermostat, and you know, I don't really know how much I should trust the thermostat in this, but I do have a thermometer so we can check. But yeah, but this will heat up the roots very good, but how are we going to keep the leaves hot? Well, let me show you. Well, before I show you, I just wanna cut this off. I've got pretty tired of these now. They are pretty annoying, and because I won't use them, they're just gonna be in the way. So, goodbye strings. Check this out. It looks so funny, bro. This is a fiber cloth or a non-woven fabric, whatever you say. But it's basically just a thick textile thing that you use to cover the ground with and stuff like that. It is supposed to have pretty good insulation. So this is going to keep the plant warm for longer, I hope. So my thought is that when the 20-degree water comes out here, then the heat will just travel up the tower and just keep everything nice and toasty in there. I hope so. I don't know how this will work out in practice, but I am going to create 7 more of these and we're just gonna see how it works. I will compare the temperature outside of it and inside of it to see if it really has made a difference. Alright, this looks a bit interesting, but we care about functionality here. So yeah, we have 10 of these now, but 2 of them we're gonna use later when the cucumbers get here. But until then, we're gonna take these 8 and just put them on the tomatoes, just as they are right now. Because, you know, as you can see, they can stand on their own. So I don't think I'm going to need to put a stick in there or something. You could do that though. Now these aren't super tall. The plants will probably be able to grow like 20 centimeters more until they reach the ceiling. But by that point, hopefully, it will be hot enough here to not need this. I'm gonna put them on tomatoes and we're going to turn on this new pump that we got. I have a video on that, so check it out. And then we have the heater, of course. But right now, it's a little too hot. It's 28 degrees or something, but it will probably get cooled down once they circulate through the substrate. And I wonder how hot this will be in the day. You don't want it too hot, because then the risk is larger for root rot. But we're gonna see. I can't do a lot about that, but I mean, we could insulate this a bit more so the temperature is more balanced throughout the day.
and night. Something like that.
Alright, so that is basically it. I finally have the tomatoes in the greenhouse. It's been a long waiting, but it has finally happened. Now subscribe so you can follow this process. I will have more videos on this, of course. I really love this system. So subscribe for that, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.